let's talk about how Kamala Harris's stupid past is being scrubbed because they've anointed her the new savior of the Democrat Party, and actually she was a known quantity, and everyone's like, wait, she's terrible? Why were we choosing her? They're like, aha, well, too bad. I love democracy. We're doing it literally to defend our democracy. And that's the thing, like, at least the French are getting what they voted for, right?
Well, they're not. They're not getting the same.
Well, they're getting communism, you know.
Well, they didn't even vote for that.
They did. They voted for the left-wing coalition.
Well, some people did.
The enough to make the alarmed form of government did it. And so, you know, that's the way democracy works. I like it when people get what they vote for. And so anyway, people don't get to vote for Kamala Harris. So now you've just got to be like, right, okay, why do we have Kamala Harris? It's like, because it's her time. That's why. Do you not remember the Hillary Clinton messaging?
They haven't had a woman of color in office, and it's so important to America that she be the next president.
That is, interestingly, the place where we're going to begin, right? Because a lot of people are like, okay, but Kamala Harris has got lots and lots of weaknesses. And so there's been a mad struggle over the past couple of days by the media, by the politicians, to try and cover up the fact that she has a terrible record and everyone hates her. Beginning with Kevin McCarthy saying, oh, well, we should stop calling Harris a DEI hire. So McCarthy is a California Republican. He was ousted from his seat by the Ultra MAGA wing, as the Independent call them. Based. That's so great. Ultra MAGA. Right. And he was like, yes, like every, I can't remember, the National Review Republicans, right? It's like, yes, I'm a Republican, which is why I'm always in defense of the Democrats, and I love everything the Democrats do, and I hate the MAGA types. I'm a real Republican. Kevin McCarthy's like, well, you know, I don't like DEI either, guys. He literally says, look, I disagree with DEI, but she's the vice president of the United States. She's a former senator. These congressmen are saying it. They're wrong in their own instincts. Like, Kevin, she literally was a DEI selection, right? Mm-hmm. Joe Biden knew, for a start, right? Kamala Harris, of course, has lots of different identity categories that are relevant to the woke coalition. And so Joe Biden began with, I'm going to choose a woman. I say, okay, Kamala's there. And then everyone's like, just a woman, Joe? And he was like, oh, good point, a black woman. Well, we've got 4 black women that you can be considering as your running.
I remember in, 2012, where Mitt Romney said he had binders full of women. Yeah. And that was a scandal. Now, Joe Biden's just openly saying it, and it's fine. Yeah,
Joe Biden's got binders of women. It's fine. I mean, he just said he's pledged when he was choosing his running mate in 2020. He was like, you know, I'm going to choose a woman. And so people were like, it's got to be a black woman, right, Joe? It's got to be a black woman. And he was like, yeah, good point. I mean, look at them with the bloody masks. Doesn't that just look like a bizarre episode in history now?
It does, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's got to be a black woman. And so, like, hundreds of black women who are leaders and activists within the Democrat Party signed open letters calling on Joe Biden to select a black woman as his running mate. 46% of Democrats said it was, quote, important for Biden to choose a, quote, candidate of color as his running mate. So, right, okay, we can see where they're going with this. And the New York Times was like, right, okay, how was Harris chosen? Well, according to Harry Reid, the former Senate Majority Leader, race had been essential to Mr. Biden's decision. So gender was essential and race was essential. It wouldn't have been someone who didn't fulfill these categories. Quote, I think he came to the conclusion that he should pick a black woman, said Mr. Reid. They're our most loyal voters, and I think the black women of America deserved a black vice presidential candidate. Okay, so obviously DEI hire. And then once he had chosen Harris, this writes black women into history, says longtime Democrat political operative Minion Moore.
As if there's been no attempt at all to do that. I mean, that's not been going on for years.
I mean, she was choking back tears as she spoke in a television interview with NBC News moments after the news broke. He has decided to write us into history. My nieces will see this and generations to come. So, childless cat lady has to lean on her nieces.
It's fun because they want all the positives from the marketing to these communities, but when it comes to suffering the consequences and the costs, don't want that.
Yeah, but what I find really funny about this, right, is they all think they're pressuring Biden. But Biden is as radically left-wing as anyone in the Democrat Party anyway. So he was like, I didn't feel any pressure. So I was going to do that. I was going to hire a woman, and then I realized it'd have to be a black woman. And he says, look, it's, 51% of the country are women. as the old expression goes, women hold up half the sky. I want the party to represent them, look like the country. It's like, yeah, he was always on board with hiring a black woman. He'd already in his mind, he was like, I'm going to get a black woman as my VP. Doesn't matter which one. I'll just find one. I've got 4 in my binders to choose from. It's totally fine. DEI hire. He wasn't like Kamala Harris has an amazing record. It has to be Kamala. It can't be anyone else. No, it was just someone chosen on identity groups. So don't even begin with that. Right. So the next thing is they're just basically trying to cover up that Kamala is essentially a communist. Right. Now you can see here that I had to go to the Wayback Machine to pull up this page on govtrack.us, which is a website that just catalogs what the politicians actually do with their time in office, what they actually vote for, what they actually put forward, what they actually accomplish. And they have on this a kind of ideological way of ranking people. And Kamala Harris, because of the things she voted for, was ranked the most liberal of all of the senators.
Every single one?
Every single one. In 2019, this is. Right. So she was the most left-wing senator that they had. Okay, interesting. And just a quick look at her record, right? Up until this point, out of the 471 bills that she co-sponsored, only 15% were introduced by a legislator who was also not a Democrat. So highly partisan, 85% partisanship on this. She held the fewest committee positions with 0 committees and subcommittees. She was the 3rd most absent. She missed 62% of the votes.
Wow.
Can you imagine if you didn't turn up for your job 62% of the time?
I found this really funny.
Yeah.
And it shows a lot about leftists because they're talking about equal status. Yeah. They hate meritocracy. They're constantly talking about DI stuff. But when she's called a DI hire, she really doesn't like it.
No.
But she has no problem with others being DI hires.
No. I mean, and again, just going through, she got bipartisan co-sponsors on the 3rd fewest bills compared to the other Senate Democrats. 8 of her 54 bills had a co-sponsor from a Republican party. It's like, okay, so she's just incredibly partisan. She introduced one bill that became law. Do you know what it is? The St. Francis Dam Disaster National Memorial Act. So basically, in 1928, a dam collapsed in San Francisco, killing like 450 people. And she put forward a bill to get a memorial built to that.
So she's like one of the least productive senators ever. Which, if that matters to you, is a big problem.
Yeah. If that matters to you, didn't matter to Joe Biden because she was also a black woman. So, but she was literally did nothing. She's got nothing to her name, right? And when people were like, hang on a second, aren't you like the most left-wing senator in the country?
You're very different in the policies that you've supported in the past. You're considered the most liberal United States senator.
Somebody said that, and it actually was Mike Pence on the debate stage.
But basically, as you can see with her stupid joke of grit,
nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
That was GovTrack.
You supported the Green New Deal. You supported Medicare for all.
Being like, yeah, okay, I am basically a communist, because she is basically a communist. But anyway, for some reason, GovTrack deleted that 2019 page.
Funny that, isn't it?
Why would they do that?
Why does she not own it?
I don't know. Because she absolutely goes out and says every other time that she is basically a communist. I mean, like, again, Chris Rufo put this up. I don't know. Samson, can people hear this, or is it just we can't hear this? Right, okay.
It has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution. Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place.
This is just a compilation of her saying exactly that same thing.
Yeah.
It's just communism.
Yeah, and actually she ends up in the same position as well, because she uses equity as a means for equality of outcome.
Yes.
Which is basically, disastrous.
Yeah, but that's communism. Everyone has to have the same. It's like, yeah, but I don't want the same as everyone else. I want the things that I want. So she is the most left-wing that Joe Biden could have chosen, and he chose her because she was a black woman. Okay. And so what did she do in her time as vice president, right? She must have some accomplishments to her name as vice president. And so people were like, well, hang on, didn't Joe Biden make her the border czar in March of 2021? And the media were like, no, that's not what happened. It's like, no, that's exactly what happened. I mean,
I remember it happening, yeah.
Yeah, because there was a massive... So Joe Biden came in and he started unsigning all of Trump's executive orders. So issuing his own executive orders, countermanding everything Trump had done. And one of those was the border wall and extra border security. Joe Biden was like, get rid of that. Within a year, there was obviously a massive crisis at the southern border. The number of people was just spiking to literally hundreds of thousands a month who were encountered coming across. So we don't know how many non-encountered people went across, but massive problem. So Joe Biden was like, right, okay, yeah, I do have to do something about this. Oh, I'm glad I've got Kamala Harris, the most competent senator that has been a senator in the history of the United States. And we can make her the person in charge of the border. Now, the title of border czar is informal, right? It is to designate someone who is just in charge of a thing, the person with the executive authority to use that thing. And I mean, Wikipedia, again, just, they actually call her, as you can see here, the border czar. Kamala Harris, 2021 to 2024, appointed by President Joe Biden. Again, it's an informal designation that simply means the person tasked with dealing with the southern border. And she was terrible at it, as you can imagine, right? Literally 5 months later, Marco Rubio puts forward this, writing to Joe Biden saying, look, she's done a terrible job. She has not done anything to stem the flow. And he calls her the border czar in this because it's just the name, the term they used to describe the person in charge of the security of the southern border.
I don't know whether you remember, but there was an interview with Kamala Harris where they asked her, well, have you been to the southern border?
She didn't, yeah.
And she never went, even though she was trying to make out like she had.
Yeah, right? She hadn't gone to the southern border. And within only a few months, Rubio's just like, look, she's done nothing because hundreds of thousands, millions had crossed. And so the liberal media was using it as well. I mean, Axios here, you can see that this is part of the scrubbing. This article has been updated and clarified to know that Axios was among the news outlets that incorrectly labeled Harris a border czar back in 2021. It wasn't incorrect. You will use the term because it's just a casual term to designate the person in charge of a particular thing, which she was put in charge of. This is disgraceful. And then they're all out there claiming now, well, we never called it that. Again, we'll play this nice compilation that the Republicans are putting around.
Quote, unquote, so true. Border czar. Vice President Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People are going to have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
We can keep going. It goes on and on and on.
You see the pattern.
Yeah, exactly. The term, again, was just an informal term that they all used to describe her. And then Trump, the other day, tweeted on Truth Social, oh, she was terrible as the border czar. And then, oh, she was never the border czar. It's like, yes, she was. It's just an informal term. You're trying to hide behind semantics.
It's just bold-faced lying, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, this is some of the most explicit lying because it's within people's living memory. It wasn't that long
It's not even just living memory. It's recent political memory.
It is
3 years ago.
Yeah, but it's the past and they want to be unburdened by what has been.
That's a good point. And the thing is, it's not like she did anything for the border anyway. She did nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was just a complete catastrophe.
That's why she was bad at it, though, because she did nothing.
Yeah, but it seems to be that's why she's bad at everything. But it was a complete catastrophe, right? And so the third thing they're talking about, is the fourth thing, is that, well, she did bail out a bunch of criminals. And so, Trump was like, well, she bailed out criminals. And they were like, no, she didn't. It's like, yeah, she did. She supported the 2020 Minnesota bail fund, which literally bailed out a bunch of the people who were rampaging and committing crimes during the Summer of Love. A specifically racial initiative. I mean, give some examples here. Republican Senator Tom Emmer said, Congressman, one convict she sprung from prison killed a man after Kamala helped release him. Yeah, that guy's name was Sean Michael Tillman, right? So in 2021, he was charged with gross misdemeanor indecent exposure. So he'd been exposing himself to people. And so they posted $2,000 bail on his behalf. And then not long after, he shot someone. So now he's in jail without parole. That also happened to someone else. George Howard was in on a misdemeanor disorderly conduct charge in August 2021. He was bailed. Then later that month, he fatally shot a man in a road rage incident. He's now in jail. It's like, God, how is it, how is it you can constantly be this bad? And so here she is virtue signaling. If you're able, chip in now to the Freedom Fund, help post bail. This tweet's still up, of course. And the media is like, she didn't do that. She didn't do that. It's like, yeah, no, she did. She absolutely did. It's still up. You can still donate to it if you want. And they're like, yeah, no, that's fake news. She didn't donate. It's like, yeah, that's even worse. Like, they're like, it's not correct that Harris has donated to our organization. She just tweeted about it. It's like, so she's cheap as well. She's not even putting her money where her mouth is, but she is going to help get this. And it's just preposterous. And so what we've seen in the past couple of days, and this is why I've just done this, is this complete, absolute, like cavalcade, this scramble to try and clean up Kamala's record. And it's been terrible. And everyone knows it's been terrible.
I think there's a really interesting thing about the border czar thing, because you have lots of high-profile Democrat people like Chuck Schumer, who is very adamant about migration as being the solution to the demographic. And Kamala Harris has never expressed any vocal opposition to it. But so there's a really interesting question of why they're trying to disassociate herself with the border czar, because you could say that this was precisely what she was there to do, just have the border open. Well, so if that holds water, then it means that the Democrats think that the swing voters are not happy with illegal migration.
It's also kind of even worse. It's like, no, Kamala Harris was never the border czar. It's like, okay, well, who's in charge of the southern border then? Oh, no one. Biden created a massive migration crisis and put no one in charge of it, of solving it. It's like, okay, but that's worse. At least he tried to put someone in charge who herself was terrible. But at least then, he shows he's taking some responsibility for the circumstance. Oh, no, he didn't do anything. Don't worry about it. Kamala Harris was never the border czar. It was just completely wide open for, whoever, millions of people, who knows how many of them are criminals to come across. It's just mad, frankly. And so, like I said, there's been this madcap rush to try and clean up her record. And it results in, like you said, brazen lies being told in real time by politicians, by the media, by the activists, by the entire sort of Democrat class that's currently just in a really unenviable position where they've got a terrible candidate they now have to all pretend to rally behind. They don't rally behind her. They just have no choice. What are they going to do? Where are they going to go? They're going to be like, yeah, no, I think I might vote for Trump this time. No, of course not. They're stuck. They're stuck with Kamala Harris. I'm not very envious of that myself. But yeah, it's just embarrassing to watch. And if you think this is bad now, and this is bad, man, it's going to be way worse in like 2 or 3 months' time. Hi, folks. Thanks for watching. If you liked that and would like to support us, you can sign up to lotuseats.com for only £5 a month, which I think is about $7. Who knows what the exchange rate is these days. And go and watch some of our amazing premium content, such as Bo's Epochs series, which he goes into depth, extreme depth, on many various subjects, such as this one, how Crassus got his comeuppance at Carhay. Anyway, thanks for joining us, and go and follow us over on Twitter, or X, at lotuseaters_com.